Hey, GoTee and Bobby, welcome to the podcast.
What's up, man?
What's up,
What's going
Haas?
on?
Thank you.
Been following the page for a minute, so I just wanted to get you guys on, and we can just have this round table discussion about your guys' first kicks, and just what I just had to hit you guys up. Hope this is gonna be as good as I think it's gonna be.
I'm excited, Bobby. You excited? I'm excited, man.
Very excited, man. Honestly, like this whole ride with the new
Word.
podcast, for us is pretty cool too. So we're on the same boat, man. So I definitely appreciate you recognizing, our journey as well. So vice versa, man. We definitely appreciate your time.
No, yeah, you guys have been, you guys have been making the moves. I saw you guys been hitting up a bunch of conventions, and I saw you guys were at the WNBA recently. Then there was like you guys split up and did some cool stuff, and
Yeah.
I was trying to remember I know the last post was like an Instagram live, so I was trying to like remember before that what was the thing before, because I know GoTee posted like all his accolades on his page, and I was like, oh, you worked at MTV Networks too, because I worked there as well.
Oh, nice.
For a little bit as well.
You
we
are
had that connection going on.
You are a 1515 Broadway guy.
Yes, sir. 1515.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was trying to I never got that MTV Networks card, but I remember it from the first time I worked. I went there to TRL, and they let us go to the back before they filmed TRL.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
That was my internship.
Oh yeah.
TRL with Carson Daly, Lala, Caduce.
Uh-huh.
That got me started. That was 2003.
That's crazy.
That's funny that you guys talk about the television experience.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm saying that's funny that you guys talk about the television experience, because I've worked in television too before going into this world. So I've worked in ABC, PBS, NPR. I've done a lot of that broadcast television too on that end. So that's funny.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I still work in television right now. So
nice.
Okay.
I worked at Viacom for like close to like 6 years, and after that I worked at MLB for a little bit. So yeah, just lots of cutting and editing and production.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I'm pretty sure, especially you being in New York, pretty sure I know a lot of people that you worked with in the past or working with now. Especially, yeah. TV is a small circle, man. It's a small circle.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of professions are a small circle. I mean, now that we're getting into sneakers, I feel like I've been having to have the same conversations with a lot of the same people, and being like, oh, nah, this person knows this person, and this person knows that person. You're just like, all right, cool.
Yeah, 100%.
But for people who are not familiar with you guys and your podcast, how about you guys introduce yourselves?
All right, I'll start us off, man. I'm BobbyKicks. I'm a big time vintage and sneaker enthusiast. I love all things nostalgic. I'm a big MJ fan, the GOAT, one and only. I met GoTee, somewhat recently. In the last couple of years, we connected, we vibed together, and then we, just talking about an idea. We went into the podcast together, and a couple of years later, that was around maybe like 4 years ago, I want to say in total.
4 or 5 years ago.
So we definitely, around that time. I'm based out of Phoenix here, Arizona, born and raised. So I'm still here. We're still based in Arizona, GoTee and I now. So that's a little bit of my background.
Yeah. So for me, I'm located. I'm in Arizona. I moved to Arizona in 2013. I'm from Brooklyn, and you probably know Haas. People that's from Brooklyn will always remind you and let you know you're from Brooklyn. So that's
they know. They will.
That's just a Brooklyn thing, dude. I'm from Bed-Stuy, do or die. I'm from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. So born and raised. As you mentioned, I was a TV guy, but my passion's been sneakers since 1988. And as you know, in New York City, you're always seeing kicks. Whether you're in Queens, you're going down the Ave. Whether you're in Brooklyn, you go down Fulton Street downtown. Whether you're in Harlem, you go to 125th. You're gonna always see kicks. So I was always surrounded by kicks. I'm lucky to be I'm the youngest brother. I have 2 older brothers. So I was always seeing kicks from them when I'm 7, 8, 9 years old. I'm like, oh, I remember. So I don't consider myself a vintage collector. I'm just a pure sneaker enthusiast, right? As Bobby mentioned, MJ the GOAT, right? That I grew up with MJ, right? I appreciate the others, but MJ's my hero. And as Bobby mentioned, I actually saw Bobby Kicks. He had a Bobby Kicks table. I went to, when I moved to Phoenix, I sold a lot of
Yeah.
my collection, unfortunately, right? So a lot of my collection just moved out here. Went to a couple conventions, and one of the last conventions I've been to, I saw this Jordan poster. It was like a Jordan, like a 6 foot them upper decks statues, cardboard statues,
Mm-hmm.
cutout. There you go, cutout. So I walked towards it, and I just saw nothing but vintage '80s, '90s Jordans, jackets, t-shirts, shorts, sneakers. Then I see this guy. So I'm like, and this is the era. This is the Yeezy era. This is the beginning Yeezy Turtle Dove era, right?
Yeah.
So once I connected with him, I was like, we were talking for an hour. I forgot that he has a business. He got to sell some stuff. And then we just connected. We combined minds. We had, there was different ideas, and then we said, hey, let's get ourselves together in terms of showcasing ourselves out to the IG verse, the internet world, and then that's how we connected, man. That's how Bobby and I connected.
No,
Yep.
yeah. I mean, in the front, I definitely want to ask you guys what fueled you guys to get together and start, Kickstory Podcast, and you guys been doing. I feel like it's different from what other people are doing, where you guys are more just focusing on the shoe that's in front of you for that episode, and then expanding on it beyond that, and then having these conversations around the shoe versus just being like, this is what's coming out, or like, oh, they're retroing this, so let me bring out retro. Like, it's like you guys are actually taking the time to talk about the history of it, and then throwing in a little bit of your personality into this. And so I want to know where that started,
Mhm.
and did it start at the table?
And that's awesome, man, that they pointed that out, because I think that's the first
Yeah.
time I've actually heard it from someone else the way you're describing it. So thank you for that. And I
Thank
think
you.
that's
Thank
something
you.
that we really wanted to, like own in a way where, we wanted to talk out of experience, because we
Yep.
lived through that era where those
Yep.
iconic sneakers were really making a big impact in the sportswear world, right? Footwear
Mm-hmm.
up to the gear, so we wanted to create something that share our stories, kick stories, and also the kick story. So the history and the personal stories behind those iconic kicks. So
Mm-hmm.
since we grew up in the 90s, born in the 80s, we felt like we had something to offer together
Yep.
from two different worlds. I know I'm from the
Yep.
Southwest, Arizona, and then GoTee from the East Coast. So, and just the way we connected in person, when I was a vendor, selling my gear and stuff like that. The way we
Mm-hmm.
connected there, we're like, you know what? This is an episode. This could be
For
something
real.
that we could share to the
Facts.
world. And we're like, you know
Mm-hmm.
what?
Facts.
Let's just do it, man. So that's
Yep.
a little bit of how we basically came up with this idea. But GoTee, I want to pass it to you.
No, I mean you said everything. You told our story, right? The Kickstory is the history and stories of sneakers, and I looked at I looked at because I've been following sneaker podcasts, I've been going on YouTube. I mean, when the internet first started, I was just going to the
Mm-hmm.
library and just looking at in styles, shoes. I was a big proponent of Nike Talk back in '99. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've been embedded into the sneaker culture, right? Lived it too, right? And I'm a researcher. I'm a historian, right? So I always saw like when I go to these sneaker vendors, I always saw like the same booth. It's a Nike
Mm-hmm.
Dunk, it's a Yeezy, it's a Travis Scott collab, and then once again Bobby had that differentiation that I'm like, oh, that speaks my language. That's why
Yeah.
I went to his booth, right? So same concept when it comes to podcasts. I've been seeing a lot of redundant podcasts. Your podcast is
Mm-hmm.
a breath of fresh air because you're getting new insights. You're talking about that first love, and that's our thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
first love. That's something we share together. Both our podcasts, that
Yeah.
first love, right? So, and then whenever you ask somebody what's your first love, they're gonna first smile, and then they're gonna go down a whole laundry list of that sneaker
Yeah.
and that euphoric feeling, that sense of
Mm-hmm.
joy. We wanted to bring that to the world. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
Bobby said it correctly, right? Just the history, stories, authenticity, right?
Yeah.
We do research in terms of like who are the designers, but 95% of the times it's us speaking. There's no script, right?
Yeah.
Because we lived it, and we wanted to just have a little, and then we wanted to also showcase our production background as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we wanted to like visually from the optic standpoint showcase our podcast to be a little different than others, not to compare, but just be in our own lane.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we're in kind of the same lanes. I feel like,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
in the beginning I had this one idea of like I'm gonna hit them with sneaker questions. Everybody's gonna have sneaker answers, like and
Yeah.
I kind of evolved it more into just like where has sneakers have taken some of these guests that I've had on, but the asking I've turned it more into like an icebreaker question versus like I need to know the exact history, which you guys are doing. So, I like having that moment because I'm very in my head about sneakers. Like there are moments I just wake up and be like, damn, yo, yeah, I remember when those came out, and then
Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
or you start obsessing and be like, yo, I remember this one shoe and I don't remember the name of it, and then you just spend 5 hours
Exactly.
Googling trying to find it, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
a lot of that is I think a lot of that is lost now because it's so easily on the internet. Nobody's when it comes to just information in general. Remember when you would go to somebody and you would tell them something and then they couldn't Google it, so they had to take you for word
Yes.
value. You'd
Yes.
be like,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
those are Scottie Pippen shoes. You remember those are Scottie Pippen shoes, and it'd be like, damn, and then they take that with them for the rest of their life until Google happens, and now they're like they look down into their phone
Mm-hmm.
and be like, man, this dude's
Yep.
been lying for the past 6 years. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so
They always have
Yep.
to describe
Yep.
it like it has the red with the white, and
Yep.
it
With the
has this, and it has
outlining.
that type of tongue. That's all you had, man. That's all
Word.
you really had to really paint that picture for someone, you know?
Yep.
So
Yep.
you guys are here to answer the question that I ask everybody each week, and
Okay.
everybody's here. Everybody's here to answer this question, my icebreaker question. So, what's your first kicks? What's that first pair of sneakers y'all need to? What's your first kicks? What's that first pair of sneakers y'all needed to absolutely have?
Wow.
Bobby
I
Cakes.
guess I'll
Bobby
start
Cakes.
it off.
Yeah. Start it off, Bobby Cakes.
So my first love, I've mentioned this over and over again before even the podcast, is the Jordan 9. The Jordan 9, and I'll just no, I don't have to grab it, but the Jordan 9, the OG Jordan 9 is a Space Jam 9. You've seen it in the movie. That shoe was super special to me because one, it was my first Jordan. Second, it was the shoe that my parents could afford because we literally found it at a JCPenney outlet in the back, just like multiple sizes. And this is during the time when Jordan retired, so that shoe was like discontinuing because they didn't think he was going to come back. His line was already
Yeah.
going to be over, so that shoe went on sale,
Yeah.
and that's my first dive into like a premium, signature shoe. Before that shoe, I had unfamiliar shoes here and there. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I want to go back and try to find those shoes, to have in my collection because I'm very
Hmm.
nostalgic like that. I want to collect the things that I had or I missed out as a kid. But the Jordan 9 was the
Yeah.
shoe that really got me into the game. And also just seeing Jordan on the television, man, just doing amazing things. I was like, man, always being the short kid. I was like, man, I want to elevate myself however I can. If it's going to start with the shoes, all right, it's going to make me feel even taller. And, I was diving into, this was like 93, I'm sorry, like 93, 94. And I was, as a kid, trying to learn the game, having some cool shoes on my feet and seeing other kids like admiring the shoes that I had. I just felt like I was on the top of the world. So that really helped me, with my confidence level, going into
Yeah.
sports, and just building myself up as like this with this personality that I wanted to really try to go into sports. So that I always carried that with me, and that really molded me as that type of person I am today.
Word.
Yeah. GoTee.
Yeah. Air Jordan 3, man. Air Jordan 3, 1988. 1988, I'm 7 years old. My oldest brother's 4 years. He's a couple years older than me. What's like 11, 12, right? So we all did good in school. My aunt, mother combined their money, and they bought all three of us the Air Jordan 3.
Wow.
My oldest brother, he had the white ones. Me and my other brother had the black, right? I'm
Okay.
7 years old. I didn't have it, and I clearly remember. I remember being so upset that I don't have an air bubble because I'm 7 years old.
Yeah.
Back in the days, Nike and
Yeah.
Jordan.
The kids, they were just like, let's slap some rubber together and let's go.
Actually, they got a little lazy, and
Uh-huh.
years later, as I get older, they use the Air Jordan 2 sole.
Mm-hmm.
They use the Air Jordan 2 sole for little kids GS sizes Air Jordan 3. So once I got over that, I was just amazed by Jordan, amazed by that foul, like the free throw dunk, amazed by the way he walked. Then when I go outside, I'm outside in Brooklyn. All the b boys had the Jordans on with the with untucked laces. I remember the amazing Air Jordan suits that came with the threes. And
Mm-hmm.
I was a little kid, and I was enamored. I was like, "Wow, this is an elephant skin." I used to always say, "Oh, this is the elephant skin, right? This is an old elephant. This
It's
is an
real
old
elephant.
real elephant." Like I'm a kid. I'm thinking, I'm like, I got elephants on, right? So the Air Jordan 3 to this day, and I'm so glad they bring him back. The Air Jordan 3 in a similar correct form because we had some butchered
Right. Yeah.
ones, right? We had some butchered ones, so they're not reimagining
Mm-hmm.
it. So it's not gonna be age yellow. I know, Bobby, you don't like that. I know you don't like that, Bobby. Bobby, what that yellow? Bobby, what that yellow soul?
I'll
Oh,
do it
Bob, you
naturally.
like it? You like an age? You like
No,
an age
I'll do it
soul?
naturally. Honestly, like I
Yeah,
wear my stuff
that's
and
a
I'll
fact.
naturally, make it yellow. So
That's a fact. Whereas
I
me,
mean, I still think that's kind of. I don't think it's ever a perfect yellow when you're like wearing it.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
it just looks dingy at that point.
You
But if you just use the age marker, it's like all right, it's totally different.
right, right. You do it naturally. Your right shoe might be a little bit dirtier than your left shoe. You can't control it,
Yeah.
right? And Bobby
Then
don't understand.
you got heel drag. You're not even thinking about the heel
Oh my
drag on one shoe. Then it
god.
start leaning.
Oh,
Yeah.
the leaning Eiffel Tower, the leaning Eiffel Tower. Oh my God. So yeah, for me, for Haas, for me, the Air Jordan 3 has been my favorite since 7 years old. It's forever my favorite. When they retro,
hmm
I get them. I sold a lot of them because I hated the construction of it. But this year, the black cements are coming out. I'm excited for those Air Jordan 3, man.
No, yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, Bobby, you touched on it. You said you want to go back and you want to get all the stuff that you had as you were a kid, but I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that's a problem with all of us, right? That's why our collections
For
are
real.
so huge. I
Yeah.
got a whole stack of boxes right here. Like,
Yeah. It's an issue.
it's like we're playing catch up because we never were able to afford the stuff that we really wanted. So now we're like, oh,
Yeah.
we got the money now, so
yeah.
let's get these, let's get this, and then you forget about the shoes that you were like, yeah, man, I remember when those were kids, but now I want these, Their SBs or
Yeah.
the Nina Chanel threes, like, and then you're like, all
Yeah.
right, I'll they're gonna be around. I'll wait.
Yep. But you know what? You know
And
what,
when I'm
Hazy?
on
You know
that
what's real?
trip,
Go ahead, Bobby.
go for it. Go
Go ahead,
for it.
Bobby.
Mhm.
Real
And I was
quick, I
gonna
was
say
gonna say
when
the
I'm
most
on that
disappointing.
journey to find
Okay, we Bobby, you must not hear me, bro. Go
there's
ahead, Bobby.
a little delay, so my bad.
Yeah, there's a little
Okay,
delay.
So what I was
go
gonna
ahead, Bobby.
say is that when I'm on that journey to find those, those pieces, those shoes that I want, I'm also finding the gear,
Yep.
hmm
from the shirts to the hats to the socks to everything I could
Yeah.
find to put that era together. You know what I'm saying?
hmm
I even find like shoes that my mom had or my dad had or my brother had. So I'm always like on the hunt for like
That's fly.
hmm
I'm trying to buy back my past. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to buy that back.
You
I'm
are
trying
you
to
sure?
yeah,
You getting the time capsule in the house. Like you don't
100%.
gotta dig for it. You just gonna be
Nope.
like, just go in the closet real quick. I'll tell you want to see 1987? I got you. 1987
I
right
have
here.
every era
If
exactly.
you want to see an acid wash Air Force Nike jump suit jacket,
Uh-huh.
go to Bobby. Bobby
That's
collection's crazy.
crazy.
Bobby collection's crazy. Bobby collection's crazy. I was just gonna quickly say for
mhm,
me, I don't go for like I don't really go for like the age OG because I'm not gonna be able to wear them.
mhm.
I'm not a rejuvenator.
Right,
Like
yeah.
so that's so. But I'm a stickler for details. I call
hmm
myself the detail policeman. I'm a
Yeah.
stickler for details, and I'm gonna say 96% of the time Nike disappoint me with their retros.
Oh
96.
yeah. I mean, I'm in this belief of like, there's a moment where retros have become just lifestyle shoes. So
True.
because of that, you know, they're just like, we don't have to put in the top tech, or even the top tech from 1988 does not, like, it's impossible to make now, or it just
Yep.
costs too much, and it's a lot cheaper to just be like, we can skimp here and there, and then skimping here and there becomes, all right, now we can get away with just doing this, and now we can
Yep.
get these crazy margins, and nobody's
Yep.
really, like, when's the last time you seen somebody put on some threes to ball? Like, you
Right.
rarely see
Right.
it,
Right.
like.
Right.
Nah,
Honestly,
Right.
but you
I
probably
do play
wearing.
my retros. I do play my retros.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, does your
That's
feet
true.
hurt?
You know what? Let me share this then. The most comfortable Jordan retro is the 10. Okay, the 4s are the
Yeah.
most
Yeah, that's
uncomfortable.
different. That's different. That's different. That's
You
different.
talking
I
about
think I'm
OGs?
I'm talking about yeah. I'm talking about like because like the tens is you have to build that to last. Like it's no there's no way to work around it. I feel like they're still using the same tech from when it first came out. But if
Yep.
we're doing like threes, ones are terrible, like
Oof.
super
I see what you
uncomfortable.
mean. Yeah.
Twos twos
Twos are not
are
bad. Twos are
twos
not bad.
are okay, but that's because
Yeah.
they barely make them. So it's
Yeah,
like, all
yeah,
right, we gotta throw in a little bit there,
yeah.
And then threes are it's like they're comfortable to just walk in, but I've never seen anybody be like, all right, man, I'm about to take off in these,
No.
like, Jordan from the foul
And then
line.
fours are bricked and uncomfortable.
Listen,
Right.
fours are my favorite model. I don't want to hear any four slander on this podcast. So it's the most comfortable Jordan I've ever had.
What? I get
No,
it. I
they
get
hurt.
it. That's your first
They hurt.
love.
They hurt. They hurt. They
Love hurts
hurt.
sometimes, man. Love hurts sometimes, man.
They're not technically they're not my first love, but I just love that model so much that even though
It is a fly
I had a
model.
pair of bread fours, right? And I mean, I don't know if I feel like you guys would be like black cement over here.
No.
We bread
No,
fours.
you're right.
I feel
Brett
like
Ford. No, Brett Ford. Brett Ford. Brett Ford.
bread fours.
Yeah,
All
Brett
right, all
Ford.
right, all
Yeah,
right.
yeah, Brett Ford. Yeah.
So I had a pair of bread fours. I think it's like the 2013 pair or the 2014 pair, or something like that.
The ones that
And I
cracked.
wore, yeah, those.
The
I had those. Yeah, instantly cracked in like 4 wears or something like that. And I get like these weird scratches on the inside of the midsole, and so I start wearing them, and I noticed that it has which I never ever had on any other shoe besides maybe Air Forces, but it's like where the pinky toe bends that like side, and then it bends into like a pointy part, and then it just starts breaking off, and you get like a
what?
pinky hole. You never
What?
had that on a
Oh,
shoe?
nah, I
You get
never
the
had
pinky
that.
hole on the side? Yeah, that's what happened with the Bread Fours. I
Was you
was like, all right,
balling?
these gotta
Was
go.
you balling in them?
No, this was just regular wear.
Oh,
Those materials, man. Those materials.
Yeah, and this is
yeah.
I look. I love Gentry Humphrey, but once they started splintering off and being like, no, Jordan Brand's about to be its own brand, that's when everything was just like went crazy down, in my opinion. But
Interesting. I never heard that. Okay.
That's when they start making Jordan fusions. So we got Uptown Jordans,
yeah,
and then they start
Oh,
making.
hmm
I'm like, come on, guys, come on, guys, come on, guys, stop playing with
those are
us.
bootlegs, man.
I mean, and now people are like, yeah, we need to bring them back. I don't know if you've seen that. People
You know what? You're right. I've seen
yeah,
something. Yeah, yeah.
and I'm like, no.
Fusions.
And then
No.
they're like the one thing they're like, all right, they weren't all bad. Like, remember the 5 Air Force Ones? I'm like, yeah, they were all terrible. They were horrible. I couldn't even speak just then.
Horrible. Not a good look.
So we talked about how you guys linked up, but I'm curious about how you grew up, Bobby. I've only had one other guest from Arizona, George from Sneak This, and so I haven't have like big knowledge of the Arizona sneaker scene before, but I do know how big it is now. But what was it like growing up as a sneakerhead, and what was the sneaker scene in Arizona?
That's a
where
good
you're
question. Good question. Because honestly, I've never thought of myself as a quote unquote sneakerhead. I've always thought of myself as a collector. And I think there's a difference in the way I break it up is this way. Like collecting, I collect what I like. When you're a sneakerhead, you'll buy like, even the hype stuff, just as long as you're on the correct or current trend, right? So that being said,
I disagree with that. I disagree with that.
Okay.
Yep.
That's just the way I see it,
That's a hype beast, not a sneakerhead.
Yeah,
That's a
I mean,
hype
I would say hype beast would be exclusively all like those expensive collabs. But anyways, that's something else, right? But growing up, I honestly like.
Don't get me on your guys' podcast.
Oh no,
you're there for an hour.
There you go. But growing up,
yeah,
man,
my bad.
No, you're good. You're good. On the growing up in the '90s, I was always into like the sports performance stuff. That included like Andre Agassi and Jordan. All right. So I was always trying to find my own personal style, and I always wore my stuff playing basketball. I always had or wanted to have like the latest gear or or put together an outfit, right? Growing up, I lost track of that, as I was getting older, like high school, college. I just didn't really care about that. I was just, more focused on school, working,
Mm-hmm.
that whole thing. As I got older in my 30s, like mid 30s, I like, you know what? I want to go back to the things that I wanted as a kid, right? And that's when
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Kicks became like Bobby Kicks. I was like, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
Instagram was barely popping up. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to dive into social media, download the app, take pictures of my shoes, of the things that I wanted. I was starting to collect. And then I started noticing through social media other people that were showcasing their sneakers. So I didn't really get an idea of what sneakerhead were. Like I say, in the 2000s,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't into the shoes. I was into Puma, but I wasn't into like Nike Talk and what Jordan was doing.
Yeah.
I kind of disconnected that whole with that whole that whole world. I started getting back
Mm-hmm.
into it mid 30s through Instagram. Started paying attention to what was coming out. The retros was a term I was fairly new to because I always thought it was reissues.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're bringing them back. They're just reissues. But retro was starting to
Mm-hmm.
becoming part of my
That's
vocabulary.
a
This is yeah.
that's a collector. That's a collector term right there.
That
You
is a
just said it
collector.
like it's a comic book.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, look, we
That was
we all
number
have
four.
the collector gene.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think it's when we start expanding on it that we like, we start satiating the gene, and we're like, yeah, I got these, and then you start going, and then you start learning and
Yep.
more about this one thing, and you
Yep.
build on it. Like,
Word.
you talked about being into Pumas and then starting to figure out retros and stuff like that. Is there a shoe or a model besides the Agassiz that was like piqued your interest and then you needed to find more about it?
Mm.
Oh wow, yeah. This as a kid, or maybe I mean, as a kid, not so much. Actually, I'll take that
Mm-hmm.
back. Yes, I was always trying to find out what the newest release was, and I was looking at Slam magazine. So I always went to my local Circle K,
Mm-hmm.
went to go there. They had a magazine section. I remember me and my friends after basketball, we get loaded up on candy and go to the magazine section
Mm-hmm.
and just look at the, just look
Mm-hmm.
at the what's coming up, what's coming out, from every brand. So Slam magazine
Mm-hmm.
was my portal to what was coming out with the gear and all the brands. Because on the back of the section on the Slam magazine, they had like Converse coming out with this, Adidas coming out with that, Nike coming out with this,
Mm-hmm.
and I was all
Mm-hmm.
across. I was exposed to all across those brands. And back then, they had like performance stuff. Like Adidas was coming out with some really cool like Adidas
Yeah.
equipment, feet you can wear. Reebok was
Mm-hmm.
coming out with some cool
Yep.
things with DMX, Hexalite. Nike was doing so. They're very competitive. So that was my
Mm-hmm.
dive into like understanding what the tech behind these shoes had and the athletes that were wearing them through. So I would say like Slam magazine was like my little Bible at the time to really understand what the sneakers were all
Mm-hmm.
about behind the athletes. Like I said, I took a break. Years later, I dove back in. This is 2012
Mm-hmm.
is when I really got back into Bobby Kicks as a thing. So 2012 was
Yeah.
when Bobby Kicks was born again, was like that kid
Mm-hmm.
again, So Bobby Kicks
Yeah.
actually
Yep.
came out from that cartoon Bobby's World. So if you watch that
Yeah.
cartoon Bobby's
Yep.
World as a
Mm-hmm.
kid, people used to pick on me saying,
It
"Oh,
was
you look like
Daydream.
Bobby from Bobby's World,"
You know, like
you know.
Bobby's from Bobby's World.
So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go back into the archive and maybe play off of that whole, that whole name. So Bobby Kicks, Bobby's World as a
Well, you
kid,
gotta
Yep.
you got to get yourself animated in that style.
Actually,
That'd
I
be
have
fly.
shirts
That'd be
printed like
fly.
that. So yeah, I'll show you.
Yeah.
I'll post some pictures on that. But
All right,
so
yeah,
yeah,
dope. That's dope.
yeah.
Yo, GoTee. All right, so we touched on Bobby for a little bit, him getting
Mm.
back into the game, but want to hear about young GoTee in Brooklyn. What were you going to school in Brooklyn, the flyest of the fly, running it up like
100%.
what was it?
100%. I never left. I couldn't leave.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't leave. I couldn't leave because
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the city. I'm in New York, right? And, and,
Mm-hmm.
and so all my friends that know me for kicks. Everybody that see me, they
Mm-hmm.
know me. So what I'm doing right now, they're not surprised. They're like, "Yeah, see, you always had
Mm-hmm.
kicks." And I was going to great lengths in high school, going to New Jersey because kicks with no tax in New Jersey, and I would get sneakers 2-3 weeks before they come out. Shout out to my man St. Clair. St. Clair, if you seeing this, you was a plug. You was the first plug. Before they had early releases, we would go to Jersey, Newark, New Jersey, in the hood, ironbound,
That's crazy. I
had
wish
book
I knew
bags.
you.
Listen, I had book bags on. I used to leave my books in high school, have an empty book bag, and then buy kicks a week or two before they come out. Put in my book bag because in Brooklyn, you know how Brooklyn is. So
Oh yeah.
I can't show that I'm wearing. I got sneakers. I gotta have my. I act like I got a lot of books in my book bag. So I've always been into kicks. I've always, and you know what? I'm lucky. I got a cool mother. Me and my mother on Sundays, she's like, look, let's just go downtown Fulton Street and let's just walk. Go to all the Habibs. Go to everybody. Just go to all the. Because in New York City, you're not
The
relying on Foot
jewelry
Locker.
store.
Jewelry store. You got jewelry in the
Jewelry
front.
store.
You got jewelry in the
Hmm.
front. Watches. You
Sneakers
got
in the back.
gold teeth sneakers in the back. So
Sneakers in the
I've
back.
I've never left kicks. I've been fascinated. I've been a student since I was 8 years old, brother, 7 years old. And to even add to it, I strategically. Well, my mother didn't want me to go to my zone high school, boys and girls high, because that was a little bad school. So I went to Martin Luther
That
King High
wasn't
School.
bad. That was a pretty bad school.
That's my zone school. That's where I'm from. So my
Yeah.
mother was like, "You can't go to the high because if you go to Boys and Girls High, I don't know if you're gonna go to college. So
Yeah.
let's let you. You've been a Brooklyn kid your whole life. You're gonna take the Iron Horse, aka the train, and you're gonna take an hour
Hmm.
and 15-minute drive. And I went to Martin Luther King High School up in West Side,
Jeez.
right?
Yeah.
But
That is
at this
far.
that's hour 15 minutes back and forth, brother.
And
Okay.
you was on time?
Uh, uh, you gotta understand. Also, we had metal detectors in our school, so it was an hour and 15
Oh yeah.
minutes plus 35 minutes going through metal detectors. So,
Oh yeah.
you understand?
Bobby,
So,
you had metal detectors in your school?
No, sir. No, not,
shoot, man.
it's funny because
Oh
I
my.
did go to a somewhat bad school, but we didn't have that. I mean, we had our, gangs here and there. You can't wear,
Hmm.
this color. You can't wear fat laces, and you can't have like, certain initials on your belt buckle, and you can't have an 8-ball T-shirt and things like that. But I mean, it
Who are
wasn't
you
crazy like
running
that.
with?
Who was I running with?
Yeah, who are you running with?
Man, I was cool with everyone, dude. Like everyone was cool with me.
Bobby was
Honestly, I
always
had
Gucci.
friends on this side, I had friends on that side. I was cool with everyone. They were cool with me, and I was very blessed to be surrounded by like some cool people. So yeah,
Hmm.
but nothing
Yeah.
crazy
You're
like
gonna
that, man.
nobody like don't make me get Bobby on you, and then that was it. They
No,
were like, no, I don't want
not that.
Bobby. I don't
Nah,
know.
Listen. But
not
Hans,
him. Yeah.
I
Hmm.
do want to say something. I do want to say something. Going to
Hmm.
Manhattan showed me New York City in a different light. Because now I'm understanding
Yeah.
fashion from Harlem in the Bronx. As you
Yeah.
know, every single borough we got our uniforms. You from
Hmm.
Queens, y'all wear Carhartt, right? I'm from Brooklyn. We wear polo, right?
Hmm.
People from Harlem. That's not how New York City is now. I'm talking about 90s. I'm talking 90s now.
No, yeah,
You
90s,
right? You
90s.
from Harlem? You wearing Vast boots? You wearing Pelly Pell leather jackets? You from the
Hmm.
Bronx? So that opened my eyes to a whole different level of fashion, whole different level of sneakers. That's when I started to realize how important Air Force Ones were. People in Brooklyn, we wear Air Force
Hmm.
Ones, but the Harlem? That's a Harlem shoe. That's a Harlem uniform.
No, yeah.
So
Hmm.
just to end that segment, man, I feel blessed and very, very lucky, even though I didn't know if I was going to be alive, but I feel very, very lucky to grow up in New York in the 80s and 90s and to not have a scar on my face too. Knock on wood, right? Because
For real. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow,
I'm from the
that's
worst. I'm from
crazy.
one of the worst areas
Nah,
in New York
yeah,
City.
Bobby. I don't know if you ever heard of those
No,
stories.
he
Like
told me the
they
story.
used
He
to,
told me the story. He
the
shared that story. I was like, that's
slashers.
wild. That is wild, dude.
I'm gonna
Get
be
people just
honest.
walk on Halloween. Hit you with the.
Bobby, remember I told you that the first time the
Yeah.
first time I went trick or treat when I moved to Arizona, and I have kids.
Yeah,
And my kids was like,
yeah,
Dad.
you told me
They were
about that.
like,
Yeah, you were
Dad,
just
wait a
like,
minute, wait a
you were
minute.
shocked,
I
Yeah.
never been trick or treating. My mom was like, hey,
Uh-huh.
Halloween was the only day I didn't have to go to school. My mother, like, you ain't going to school. You good.
No.
That's crazy.
So,
Nah,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, I'm a little bit younger than you guys.
yep,
I was born in '88,
yep,
so
Oh wow.
yep.
the so your shoe comes out the year I was born, but
Magic.
the yeah, but yeah, I mean, that was like it's funny to call it a tradition, but it was a tradition that lasted for a really long time.
Really long time.
People just being like, watch out for buck 50s. I'll be like, what? For what's a buck 50? And you'd be
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, that's when they go to the side of your face
Side of
on
your face.
Halloween. I'm
Crazy.
like,
Huh?
what? That's crazy.
So I feel blessed to really really be
Hmm.
safe. Like I can tell
Yeah.
these stories. I'm in my 40s.
Yeah.
I can tell these stories,
Hmm.
right? And only people from New York will really understand what I'm talking about. Like really understand
Hmm.
that danger. but also really appreciate kicks. Because New York
Yeah.
City, we didn't have cars. I didn't get my license in my 20s, but really
Yeah.
appreciate sneakers and the different cultures New York City brought with sneakers.
No, yeah. Bobby, you know, one thing we talk about sneakers in New York, but like Arizona gets real hot. So when you wear old retros, are you afraid for them to start melting on you? Like I'm curious about this.
It's funny that you mentioned that because just recently, for the first time ever, a pair of running shoes actually dismantled because of the heat. I was running, and then some of the attraction pads on the bottom, came
Yeah.
off. I was like, "What the hell happened?" That was the first time I've ever experienced in my life here. I mean, I haven't really had any bad stories about my shoes falling apart. Honestly, so. I mean, I lived through like 120 one time. I hit like a record when I was like a kid. Like I think it was like 121, something like that one time. But I was indoors. I wasn't going outside. But yeah, no damage, no heat damage yet.
Check this out real quick, Bobby. I got a quick Arizona story. I moved here
Mhm.
July 2013. Right. I'm excited, Haas. I'm excited that I live in an area that got a pool. Right. I'm like, oh, shit,
Yeah.
I got a pool. Right. Day
Mhm.
one, moved. I didn't even put all my stuff away. I said, come on, my partner at the time and my daughter, come on, get your bathing suits on. Let's go to the pool. I'm talking about when we first get
To
here.
jump in.
Right. I had my Nike slides. I left them outside. Yo, I was in the pool for 2-3 hours. In 2 hours. By the time I get up, the slides went like this. It became a
Oh my
U.
God.
It became a U. That was my welcome to Arizona, man. The slides became a U, and the form
Hey,
never changed. I couldn't wear them no more.
That's funny.
I mean, hey, look, it's better than a welcome to New York. Usually, welcome to New York is like you get into a bum fight, somebody throwing, somebody spitting on you as soon as you walk out of train station. You
Facts.
stepping in human shit. You're not stepping in dog shit. You stepping in human shit. Like,
That's a
yeah,
fact.
Wow,
I take crippling slides over any of those.
that's funny.
That's a fact. You ain't lying. You are not lying.
You
Word.
touched on moving to Arizona, but like, what is the culture shock for you? And then, Bobby, my question for you is when you met GoTee, what was it like meeting a New Yorker for the first time?
All right, so for me,
GoTee, you want to
the
answer?
culture shock was
Mm-hmm.
yeah. For me, culture shock was space. When I first moved
Mm-hmm.
out here, I got a car, and I didn't have to think about parking. That was an adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
I had a spot. I lived in a townhome at the time, and just have a car, I can go to the grocery store, easy parking. How easy! I had a hard time adjusting a life that was easy. Right. Then the
Yeah.
heat. The heat. I mean, as much as I
Mm-hmm.
hate humidity, when it's July, August in Arizona, and then that's like and we have a little bit of humidity in August and July, right? It's a weird
Mm-hmm.
humidity, right? Adjusting to the heat, and then also adjusting to like culture. Arizona, I mean, it has. I've been here 11 years. I have seen the progression of culture. But when I first got here, I was like, oh man, where's the culture? To a point where I went to a pizza store. They're like, oh, we don't sell slices, we sell pies. I'm like, I just want a slice. Like these little things you take for granted in New York that
Yeah.
Arizona didn't have. But Arizona has, in my past 11 years, the progression's crazy. That's why I'm still here. Bobby?
Yeah, Bobby.
So yeah, I mean, when I met him, it definitely was interesting. You know, his style, lingo. Some of the, I'm still learning when he says like pause, like, okay, when to say that, when to recognize what that means and stuff like that.
I
So
told you, Bobby. I told you.
yeah, yeah.
Bobby
Okay,
doing
okay.
good. You doing good,
And it's
Bobby.
funny
Doing
because if
good.
you,
Bobby
the,
doing
tra-
good.
the trial and error on the
yeah,
pause.
Listen,
exactly,
in
yeah,
the beginning, Bobby, I was talking about. After a while, I got slipped up. Bobby was like, "Yo, go T pause." I'm like, "Oh damn, Bobby, you got me. You're right."
yeah. I'm learning. I'm
He's
learning. And it's funny because in some of the earlier episodes on the podcast, you can see that progression of like me understanding slowly, and then in the later episodes, I'm like, I know what's coming, So there you go. Pause.
Yeah.
Hey yo, hey yo.
There
Hey
you go.
yo.
So there.
Hey yo.
So yeah, I mean, just learning that's the way he describes like his upbringing in the East Coast, New York City. It's really cool. I mean, my family's from a big city too. Like they're from Mexico City. So
Mm-hmm.
that's like considered, I think, the third largest populated
Yeah,
city in the world. So I
Yeah.
visited there.
yeah.
So I love the big city life. Like I've been around it. I've been involved in it and so on. So and I've been in New York once before. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
get the New York experience like the way he's describing it. So
You got the
Mm-hmm.
but
you got the Times Square experience, Bobby, right? The
in other
Times Square
words,
experience.
right. In other words,
Yeah.
right.
So
And you know,
so you got a Elmo trying to get you to take a picture with you,
no, I didn't do that.
and you had Showtime. You saw
Showtime,
Showtime.
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 We mainly
No
just walked
music.
around. Yeah. I mean, but it was a cool experience. But I mean, meeting him definitely opened up my interest in, like, what it was back then in the East Coast. Some of the lingo he's bringing to the table. Just every day we talk about certain things, and we're like, man, I'm always learning from him. Like
Mm-hmm.
the things that he's saying, the mannerisms and things like that too. So it's just really, I'm a people observer. I've always observed, like, how they behave and how they just do things. So it's really interesting to hang out with them and just understand even some of his friends. I met his mom. I met some of his good friends that are living here too. So
Mm-hmm.
that whole access to that is like really enlightening to me. So I'm learning a lot through him and just his personality and his knowledge. So it's a nice combination, man. It's a nice, like
I
a
agree.
collaboration between the two. So
I
yeah, I appreciate that.
I call Bobby and I, we like Cisco and Ebert. If you remember that, the movie critics, right? Just two
Yeah, of
different
course.
people, right? Two different people, two different way of the worlds. I mean, I learned a lot from Bobby. I mean, what I learned, from him saying Nike Cortez are called dope mans. I'm like, what? What the hell is that?
Yeah, the
Right? Like
Dotemans.
like
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the
The
dope mans. I'm like, what?
Dolmans.
We don't know. I don't know what a dope. I know what uptowns. He didn't know Air Force One's uptowns. Like we that being bi code, that two different coasts growing up completely
Yeah.
opposite, I think has really benefited us in what we're doing with our podcast, man.
true.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, that's great. That's great. I was like thinking about like the next question here, and so uh, in my head, and I lost it. So that's why I'm rambling. But the what I was thinking, it was just like it's interesting that you guys are able to just connect two worlds just like that over sneakers, and it's beautiful, obviously, and brought us here
Yep.
to this moment. You
Yep.
know, you know, and because of that, I've seen you guys doing, you moving, you shaking, you traveling, you doing,
Yeah, we yeah, we
the
out.
convention floors, you
Yeah,
having,
we
Trinidad
outside.
James talk about the shoes. Yeah, you
Yeah,
outside.
we outside.
Um, what, where has sneakers taken you guys individually and put you in front of where you thought you wouldn't even imagine that this would happen.
For
Go ahead,
me, I
Bobby.
want to say that I wanted to share that, and actually we talked about this recently, that we're
Hmm.
honestly like building a community, or
Hmm.
Word, word.
expanding the community right now. It's and the reason why I say that is because a lot of people are connecting with us, and they're opening up their personal stories, and it's like
Hmm.
really flattering that they could see us and trust us to share their stories, and vice versa, we can share their stories. So it's been a blessing that this podcast has allowed us to connect with people that were, in our eyes, like, man, we were fans of them. Now they're like,
Yeah,
now we're part
yeah.
of like the same community. Now they see us like
Hmm.
on the same level. I'm like, that's flattering, honestly. I mean, I always say this, but like, I think of our on the if you were to look at us, we're small beans. But I think the effort that we're putting into and the authenticity, like GoTee was saying, I think that's what's
Hmm.
helping us get it to the next level. And honestly, this is a lot of work. It might come off as a certain way, online, but I mean, we're doing a lot of things behind the scenes to really make this happen, and we
Yep.
appreciate any support that we can get, whether it be like a like or a
Hmm.
comment or a share or a DM or a subscriber, even these interviews, right? With you, man, like all that
Hmm.
is huge to us. So we value our efforts and the way we're, the response we're getting from. I'm having a good time doing it, and it's a lot of work. And we hope that we can continue doing this with every support and any support we can get from everyone else.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, in the play off of your words, Bobby, I mean, what it brought me, it brought that sense of community that I felt was missing me living in Arizona, if I could be honest with you.
For sure.
Right? Right? Being in New York, you can take the train, you can go to Soho, and in that train ride, you might meet three people, right? Just random, right? The internet is bringing me that feeling back. Because in Arizona, everybody closed their doors. It's hot. It's hot. You ain't outside like that. It's hot, right? So Arizona's destination based. I'm gonna go to a destination. I may see people there. So what the internet's doing for me, what sneakers is doing for me, is opening just friends. It's opening just real, authentic people with the same passion, like yourself, Haas. Like right, and real, and you know what? Real recognize real. I live by that. Because when you see somebody and you
For sure.
connect, you like, you a little funny money, you a little different, right? I'm gonna keep you at a distance, right? But real recognize real. Also, it just brought us opportunities. Haas, I don't know if you know, our first episode was January 1st, 2024. Okay, so
Oh, really?
we started Kickstory
We're
January.
babies.
Now,
Yeah.
mind you, we've been filming and shooting all of 2023, right? So we was figuring out what's our path, figuring out what's our field. Bobby is a master when it comes to the art of graphic design, right? So Bobby, using his 20 plus years and 10,000 plus hours of experience in graphic design and helping us with what's the feel of Kickstory, what's
Yeah.
our identity, right? So it was a lot of work that happened in 2023, and we launched January 1st, 2024, and we in August, and we've been meeting this person, we've been invited to this place. It's just like everything's happening organically, and the number one rule I have in life, and I'm sorry if I'm rambling. When
No,
you
you
do
good.
when you do something you love, you don't got to effort. The universe got you.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't need effort.
You don't need effort. And so
Yeah.
I feel like Bobby and I are true testaments to that. We love it. It's hard work, but we love it. We love what we do. We love when we post. We love the interaction. And let the universe do what it does. Let the universe do what it does. We good.
And
That's
real
true. It's
quick,
true.
I did want to add. I mean, honestly, like you said, GoTee, the people that we've been meeting, the fans and the supporters and the followers, honestly, like that's what makes this, as cliche as it sounds, that's what makes it special. Because honestly, like we've been meeting some cool people from around the United States, and it's like, man, like it's opening up, that community of like, man, like we're making friends, we're
Facts.
making some connections, and it's all through
Facts.
sneakers, like things that you wear on your feet. It's like, man, how does that happen? So it's really cool,
Facts.
man. Like it's very special, and honestly, I'm not taking that for granted, and I want to make
Same.
sure that we project that out to our audience that, hey, man, like we're not putting out a front, man. We're not putting on a show. We're putting on like something that you can
Oh, we are.
watch with us and engage, and hopefully it sparks some engagement with you, with us, or with someone else in your family or friend circle. So we want to, kind of get that going for everyone else too. So, I'm glad that we have the opportunity through the internet, through people like you and other,
Yep.
other content creators, that we can do this together.
Yep.
No, yeah. I mean, that's the hardest thing about, I think, and I've expressed this on other podcasts too, is to get other podcasts or like in our like niche of this of sneakers, because I've always felt sneakers is a very greedy hobby. We don't want other people to know where we're getting our sneakers from, because we don't
Yeah,
want the
yeah,
chance of
yeah.
losing our size,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So when it comes
Yeah.
to this, people feel like they don't want to share it, because then they're like, oh, then it's going to get too big. And then, I don't have my podcast or something like that, So I feel like, but I'm saying it more of like the person that we cater to, or the person that we're trying to bring in, are people who are inherently trying to stop other people from
Yep.
getting what they're into,
I see
So
Yep.
that.
it's hard to like, I've been doing this I'm going on 4 years. So I've been doing
Awesome.
this for 4 years.
Fly.
This you guys are going to be
Salute.
episode 186, I think, at this time.
That's dope. Damn, 186.
So
That's fly. That's fly.
186. So I've seen the ups and downs. It was just like me and like two other sneaker podcasts in the beginning, and then all of a sudden now we got like 17, 20,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm always inviting, and I'm always going to hit up another podcast, because I feel like, it's a lot easier to have host on and be like, let me take you out of your hosting your hosting chairs, and let's just have a conversation. Let's lower these guards, and
Word.
so
Word.
that, and give you and let people get to see you guys, personalities outside of your format and your podcast. So that's always been like one of the things that I've wanted to do, because I feel like if we're not trying to build a community that will help each other, then, which is what I always felt the sneaker community was always about, then what are we doing? Because if I'm
Yeah.
trying to put a platform up to lift people's up and tell people, yo, let's get your sneaker stories on wax. Let's learn about BobbyKicks, walking in Arizona with his dope mans on, like let's learn about that stuff. So
Word.
that
Word.
I feel like that it's hard. It's a tough pill to swallow. That I feel like we're in this niche that doesn't allow for it. But once we be the change that we want to see, then then we'll see more of it. That's what I always preach. That's what I always try to do. And
Yeah.
I hope you guys feel that.
100%. I think I'm seeing that
100%.
more now. I'm
Mhm.
seeing that a lot more now. Like I'm noticing a lot of other content creators are just like opening up. They've been contacting others and vice versa. I think right now we're starting to see that because, as you know, the reselling game that really disrupted the collectors, collecting has changed. So now it's forcing people to pay attention to other things rather than like the reselling game. It's more of just like, okay, now it's about substance now, and now it's about the stories. In my opinion, it's no longer about surface level stuff. So it's about more more of the substance behind the gear. Are doing that. They're trying to go into storytelling. Look at what the Lost and Found Jordan 1s. They went with the whole OG looking paper, the tissue paper, the fake receipt.
Yeah.
So a lot of brands are going into the storytelling business now. So it's not just about the surface level stuff anymore.
Are you guys a fan of that, as like as Kickstory? And I'll tell you from my I can go first on this. I'm not a big fan of it. I feel like brands are selling the stories back to us, but we're the ones that created the stories. And I think if they're gonna do that, I feel like if they're gonna do that, do it at a higher level. Like, make it so that we get to be part of it, not that select few get to be part of it. Not that, like, if we're the people that are putting the shoe on the forefront, and we're the ones that are helping build a community around sneakers and stuff like that, that if the brands are just going to sell it back to us and then charge us twice instead of like the original price or something like that, then I feel like it's not fair to us, and why should we buy into it?
I agree. I mean, I 100% agree. It's, these big brands, these multi-billion-dollar brands, it's all about narratives, right? And these big brands also realize that their demographics has changed. We are a very small demographic for the Nike, Adidas. I wouldn't even say Puma, but I feel Puma's always been in its own lane in authenticity.
Oh yeah, for sure. Puma and Reebok has always been like, let's go this way.
I'm mainly talking about Nike. Right? So they create these narratives that they know their target audience, which is the younger people now. I'll give you the perfect example of a narrative. The band Jordan 1. No,
that's coming out.
No. The one that came out, that's like the one that had the X in the back. I don't know, 18 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? That at one point was $3,000-$4,000. The Jordan 1 black and red was never the band shoe, it was the air shipped. Right? So they just created this narrative of the Jordan 1 black and red being a band shoe that was never the shoe, it was always the air shipped. And then once they saw that, oh, okay, let's create a special package with the airships. Now call those bands. Their demographic, the younger people, they don't even care. They just like whatever that hype is, they're gonna go for. So Nike is really benefiting off the narrative. They leaving us enthusiasts and purists out of the picture. So we almost gotta settle. We gotta settle for what they bring because we're not part of their demographic anymore. That's how I feel.
T, you bring up a good point with the them releasing like the fake narratives and so on, and honestly, like, people bought into it, and then a lot of resellers bought into it because they see it as a profit thing. So now
Yeah.
people that want to collect it, because I appreciated the story, I can't get access to it. Like, I never got the
Mm-hmm.
airships because a lot of the resellers bought them up. But as far as like I actually appreciate the stories. I understand the idea behind it.
Mm-hmm.
But I see your point too, Haas, about it's all about the profit. It's all about excluding, making it more exclusive to a certain a group of people, and kind of feeling left out, and then selling them back to us at a premium price. I
Mm-hmm.
understand that, and that is frustrating. But I like the idea that the brands are at least attempting to try to bring back some substance. But I know it's all about the profit margin. I get it. So
But
for me, yeah.
I was gonna say, but I feel like if they use the track, like, so for example, the reason why I understand what you're saying about the banned ones is that the first commercial is the 2X commercial
Mm-hmm.
with Jordan. So people don't
Mm-hmm.
remember. If you ask anybody what an airship is that was born around my age, they'll be like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
It's
Mm-hmm.
airship's more of a recent. Let's bring it back. Let's
Mm-hmm.
the old heads are gonna love these. Like that. That's the
Mm-hmm.
type of play, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
which I feel like fell short, right? But
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm specifically saying, and it's not like an Amamania release where they're like, hey, we want to put black voices on a pedestal and make them louder. Like, that's cool with me. Yeah.
Yep.
Or fresh new stories that it is a tactic of like, hey, we're gonna put out a new shoe, this different colorway, we're gonna put it together and sell you on it. Fear of Gods, some sort of
Yep.
something like that, right? Or Off
Yep.
White, right? Love all the 10 and all the
Yep.
Off Whites, but
Yeah, me too.
that to me that's new. But if I'm not gonna sit here and be like, yo, I absolutely have to put the Bread Fours Reimagine on my top sneaker of the year list, because what they're saying is like, hey, you guys need to buy this shoe at 250 instead
Mm.
of 170, or
Mm.
how much it should probably actually cost. And because you remember when you were a kid and you had these, or that you remember you were a kid and you couldn't get these,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like, all right, now let's reimagine every single Jordan. It's
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather the brands take the steps to collab with a designer to give you a fresh take on something old, versus being like,
Oh, okay.
let's just do. But I also see your point, Bobby, about like, the resellers using trying to make it so that brands had to go through them in order to get you the sneakers, right?
Yep. Yep.
Brands don't care because they're just like, hey, these sneakers are selling. Like,
Yep.
the demand is high, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So just keep making them. Just keep make them in a different color. Make them, So that's fine, because they need to. When they look at sneakers, it looks like numbers. But when we look at sneakers, it looks like stories. It looks like art. It looks like
Mm-hmm.
the last memory you had with a
Yeah.
special loved one. Like, we
Exactly.
look
Mm-hmm.
at it differently, and we as the consumers have to look at it like, do we want this? Do I need this? And I think the pandemic caused a lot of mindless buying, where it became of kind of like are you really buying to just have it in your closet and never wear it, or are you really
Mm-hmm.
buying it because it really appealed to you?
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I
One thing
think
I did
I
want to
think
share real quick,
Mhm.
one collab that I think represents the story and also being a modern take on it are the Off-White twos. I
Oh
GoTee,
Yeah.
yeah,
you have that pair,
I
dude.
have them. Yeah.
When I saw
Yeah.
that pair, I was like, and then I understand the story behind how Virgil designed these and the cracking and the sole. I was like, okay, this is
They
good
went to Nike
storytelling,
archives.
and it's and
Yep.
it's through
yeah,
a modern designer. That's a great
right,
example of like that connection between the past and the present. So I
yeah,
appreciate
Yep.
that, and I'm not really big on like that. I don't have that in that collection. I'm just like OG colors as much as I can and so on. But that one really got my attention with like collaborations,
Same.
So I
hmm
appreciate
Yep.
that model for sure.
I mean, I love that shoe. I was never able to get him. I had Sean Collard on the podcast, and he talked about how Virgil gifted it to him, and I was like,
nice.
"That's a
Yeah.
special moment,
I
right?"
remember
Big on the
I'm a
he
shoe.
big
actually
jerk.
put his
Yeah,
name on it, right? Yeah.
yeah, he put a name on it and
That's
everything.
crazy.
I'm a big Virgil fan. I think he broke the door open between streetwear and fashion, and
100%.
you know,
100%.
yeah, and he really pushed what, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to get probably hated on for this, but I think he pushed what people perceived as sneakers and what we could do to now that every customizer is doing a big check, or every customizer is writing Air on it, or writing the Beaverton address on the side. I think he's one of those like generational talents that he gave it his all to, where now that he's not on this earth, that we will see his art for probably
Forever.
the end of time.
And,
Yeah.
100%.
and you
Yep.
said it. My favorite artist is Basquiat, and I love
Mm-hmm.
Basquiat. I have a couple of replica Basquiat. I can't say real because I wouldn't be here if I had some real Basquiats. But but it's my favorite, and the
Yeah.
reason why I say that is because I love people that can always go back and connect with their childhood, because that's that innocence.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at Off White, that's like something a kid would do. Oh, let's get some
Yeah.
sneakers and let's cut it and let's expose what we
Mm-hmm.
cut. Right? Or
That's a good one. Yep.
right. Oh, let's get a marker and let's write on it. Right? That's like childhood essence type shit. Right? So
Mm-hmm.
I
I like
love when
that.
somebody can go back into their childhood, right? Because that was the one point of all of our lives where we weren't really that influenced. We were influenced by what we saw, but we used our own creativity of our brain. And I feel like if we can get more of that essence with collabs, I feel
Mm-hmm.
that I would personally feel a little bit more comfortable with collabs instead of a Travis Scott that was a mocha color with a reverse Nike check, and now all of a sudden we got a
Mm-hmm.
canary yellow color, and everybody's like, where's that artistry at? And that's what
Yeah.
Virgil did.
With Travis, I think it's like I do think he suffered from the hype, but also it's just like now that canary yellow is like, it's my high school, and now we're
Yeah.
supposed to be like, oh yeah, we're all fan of your high school now. Like,
Right, right,
yeah,
right, right.
the when it comes to storytelling, there's an art to it. And I think a lot of it is about appreciating what you've grown up on, and if you appreciate it, then you'll know that, like, okay, now, like, because, like, for example, Yachty, terrible takes, but I actually like his Concrete Boy Air Force. That is a homage to a bait,
Yeah,
like, because he grew up on that stuff, and you're like, oh, if I'm gonna have a chance to make my own Air Force One, I'm just gonna make a bait. Like,
yeah.
that makes sense to me, right?
When
Versus,
when is that
yeah,
coming out? Little Yachty's a
I
collab.
don't know.
When? Okay.
I don't even think it's coming out. I think he just like teased. I know he had like a video of him holding the shoe,
Yeah, yeah,
and that
yeah,
was
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But that's like if you're gonna do something like that, you can tell that it comes authentically versus being like, hey, this is the school I went to. Here you go. Here's the colors. I'm gonna give you the colors. But we're towards the end of the podcast, and you perfectly said I mean, a huge segue. You were mentioning your childhood, so I'm going to need you guys to visualize you guys as a kid. I'm going to hit you up first, GoTee. And I want you to visualize you back in
Mhm.
the day,
Okay.
young GoTee.
Okay.
He's about to open that box with the Jordan
Oh.
3s in it,
Oh.
right? Now,
Yes, sir.
older you,
Okay.
behind yourself, what would you tell your younger self as he opens that box?
Can I be honest with you? Can I be
Uh-huh.
honest? I'm doing the same thing right now when I get a new sneaker. I'm doing the same thing as a kid. When I get a new sneaker, I open it up. First, I put it on my bed. At the time when I
Mm-hmm.
was young, I had bunk beds. I was on the bottom, my brother's on top. But now I have a Cali King, so it's a little different. But I put the sneaker on my bed. I unwrap them. I smell them. And I lay down and I observe every single inch. And it's probably going to take me an hour. It's probably going to take me an
Yeah.
hour. It's going to be an hour. And more than once, I have fell asleep with the lights on, with the sneaker next to me, because I've been doing that since I was 7 years old. So
Uh-huh.
what I'm telling young Goatee, well, T, my family call me T. What I'm telling young
Yeah.
T, right, and older now Goatee, is keep on doing it. Keep on reliving your childhood essence. Do not stop. Don't care. Don't listen to don't listen to people saying that, oh, you're too old for that. You keep on
Mhm.
reliving your childhood. You do the same thing you've done since you was 7 years old. Because you know what? The greatest thing in life is whatever make you happy, man. That's what makes me happy. So
Facts, perfectly said.
I'm telling my young self, do you, son? Do
He
you?
gonna look at you like, who are you? Who's this?
That's pretty much it.
Bobby,
That's it.
Bobby, Bobby, I'm gonna hit you with the same question. You know, I want you to think back to your younger self as he's about to open that box of those nines, those Space Jam nines. What were you, older you, behind you, tell your younger self
I
as he
love
opens
that
that box?
question because it makes me like, daydream, like, the little
Mm-hmm.
things. And I've told GoTee about this. Like, I remember when I was younger, all the things that I always daydreamed as a kid and the things that I manifested as an older adult. And I'm like, man, I'm doing it. So that being said, I would tell
Mm-hmm.
myself, like, hold on to those shoes and keep going, Bobby. Keep going. Because honestly, that's been
Yeah.
my slogan for the last couple of years is keep going, keep moving. Because everything that I've been doing so far has been almost, it feels like effortlessly. Because I really believe in, like, staying true to who you are, knowing who you are as best as you
Mm-hmm.
can, and just keep going. Everything is going to just magnetize towards you. And success, all the things that you want out of yourself in this life, it's going to come to you. So as long as you stay true to yourself and just keep going, everything else is going to follow. So I would just tell myself, hold on to those shoes, man, and keep going, Bobby, because you're going to see some cool things, man. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's honestly as plain and simple as that, man. Just keep going.
Not don't wear a blue flag on the third floor.
No, I mean, like, I think I took all the right steps, man. Like, I wouldn't change too much of the past. I would
Mhm.
say, you know what, like, you're on the right track. Appreciate every moment. Hold on to what you have right now because it's going to serve you, later on down the road. So hold on to those, connect those dots and hold on to those clues because that's going to get you that's going to be the key to the next door. So,
Mhm.
honestly, like, I've been really fortunate to experience what I've experienced and to meet the cool people that I'm meeting today. Because
Mhm.
like my present was determined by my past, and what I do in
Yeah.
my present is going to determine my future. So I always take in consideration those three things. So everything that I'm doing right now, I'm really learning from it and really appreciating it to get to the next level. So I would just tell myself, my younger self, hey, hold on, just appreciate what you're doing right now. Hold on to those shoes and keep going, man.
Facts, facts. Look, let everybody know where you can find y'all.
Listen,
Kickstreetpodcast.com.
so Kickstory Podcast, when you go to kickstorypodcast.com, just type that in,
Mhm.
it's going to take you to all our outlets. It's going to take you to our YouTube. It's going to take you to our IG, right? We did just finish our first ever pop-up shop where we had some exclusive Kickstory gear. We're going to be doing that
That was fire.
seasonally, right? We're going to do that. We're going to do that every season. So if you just bookmark kickstorypodcast.com, right? Follow us, subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow our journey. We're currently on episode 20, right? Soon to be episode 21, right? And like as Bobby said, engage. Go ahead, Bobby. Engage.
Yeah, and you can find our individual pages. I'm at BobbyKicks_Kickstory. And you can
And
find
I'm
my
at
personal journey. You can go as
go,
far back as like my Puma years. So if you go back into my timeline, you can see my progression as my Bobby Kicks, brand into the Kickstory podcast. So go T.
sorry, because I forgot that. And I'm just simple at GoTee_Kickstory. You're gonna see a lot. You're gonna. See, I go like this with my personal page. I got two kids, so I show my kids. I show myself. If you go down my timeline, you're gonna see me always wearing sneakers, but I never branded myself. I never. I only.
Yeah, yeah.
I branded myself when I started Kickstory, right? So other than that,
Mhm.
but you're always gonna see me with some kicks, and just having fun. My motto is energy flows where attention goes. I feel like I'm a master, a manifest. I believe in the law of attraction, right? That's kind
Mhm.
of my thing. So you're gonna see a lot of spiritual things, and I just go like this. But I think I'm talking too much now, so I think I'm done.
You good, you good. You know where to find me. I am who is Hasa on all social media. Follow the podcast at My First Kicks Pod. Follow the podcast on YouTube and TikTok, My First Kicks. If you have a My First Kick story, hit me up, myfirstkickspod at gmail.com. And for everybody out there, we say each week, wear your kicks. Peace.